Welcome to Kahnawake Year in Review. We're going to be taking a look at some of the highlights and news stories, not everything, but the highlights from this year, Kahnawake. Joining me in studio is Thomasina Phillips, as well as Regan, Jacobs-Stalk. Congratulations for another year.
Another year.
Wow.
Yeah. It goes so quickly, I tell you. Lots of things going on this year, though. Before we get started, I just wanted to introduce Thomasina. People seen her on our last show, and by the way, we got a lot of positive feedback.
Great.
Yeah, they loved your reporting.
Welcome.
So welcome. Yeah, we scooped her up, and she's joining our news team and here the team at Mohawk TV, I should say. So welcome to your first year in review with us. Kind of just threw you in there.
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Being thrown in.
Okay, so we're going to get started. In January of 2009, there was a lot of things that were going on.
Right.
We had the community consultations began for a justice system in Kahnawake, which are still ongoing to this date, actually. New Indian status cards process begins. Starting last February, there was an application process, but the process actually only began in January of last year.
And that's still ongoing.
It's still ongoing. There was a lot of setbacks with the status cards throughout the year. For me, my pick for January of 2009 was the $1.8 million fine paid to the Mohawk Council from Ultimate Bet for a cheating scandal that had happened between 2007 and 2008. And the reason why I picked this story was because it was one of the biggest fines that the KGC had ever levied in their history. And also the money that was used from the fine actually went to finance Kahnawak's justice system. This is according to a Mohawk Council press release, by the way. Another $500,000 to Gaming Commission development, and then the rest to an education shortfall and town garage equipment. And also the fine that was, $1.8 million. It's a huge fine. But also the Ultimate Bet cheating scandal itself, came to a close, even though you still hear about it, but after a year and a half of investigation and ongoing media attention, it finally paid its fine, calmed down.
They're still in business and still running things smoothly, so it's probably been a good year for them. Now at this point on the other side,
the other side there, yeah. So that was my pick.
All right, so moving along we'll move to March 2009.
Yeah, the reason why we went right from February to March is because it seemed like February was just it was a process of, the biggest story in February was the INAC cards getting processed, and people were wondering what was the priority and stuff like that. So that kind of filtered into March, so I skipped right over it.
Well, February was fun, though. We did have the Winter Carnival.
Yeah, we had the Winter Carnival. Oh, yeah, okay. So if you had anything good, you know me, I can't help myself. It has to be all politics all the time. So
but that was one of the good stories.
Yeah.
That's always a good story.
And it breaks up winter.
For a lot of people. And I think they had a very successful one last year. That was the Kahnawake Youth Center, but along with almost all the organizations in Kahnawake, everybody getting involved, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you participate every year in the carnival? Either of you?
Yeah, well, I do because I sit on the Youth Center's Board of Directors.
Oh, okay.
So, so I get involved as much as possible, volunteering, and it can get pretty tiring for a lot of the staff. So our board of directors likes to support our staff, and we get involved as much as possible. Yeah.
Well, I just go to watch people jump in the pool. Yeah, because that's always a big fun thing, and to see the pictures come out. And
I did it one year. You did too, right?
I did it several years.
I did one. That was it.
That was enough.
That was enough.
Okay, so moving on now, we're going to continue into March of 2009.
Okay, so in March 2009, we had a survey start for the Olympic torch. Shouldn't pass through Kahnawake.
Right.
Then 2 weeks after that, results came back from the Mohawk Council. The survey had been conducted, so the results came back via press release, if you will, and they said that there was people wanting the torch to come through the community. mind you, if I could just say this, 8 months go by and we don't hear anything until,
just before
the end of November, December. We'll get to that when all the drama starts. Okay. Later on in the month, elections begin with a call for nominations for the electoral officer. So this was a big story for me because there was a call for nominations for the electoral officer, and that the election season has officially begun. So everybody in the media is just like, haha, because of your news
Here we
person,
go.
It's coming.
I just have to say, it's actually, I find so, the campaigning period is so much shorter than in, say, outside politics. Canadian you're always campaigning.
It seems like it's constant.
So at least there's a short period where it's, and it's only every 3 years now. So it's not like something huge and overbearing. It's actually pretty manageable.
So anyways, so this was the kickoff to elections 2009, which in themselves, every year we think what's going to be, or every election actually you say, well, what's going to be the issue for elections this year? The previous year was membership, and the one before that I can't even recall, but now this year was all the people that didn't make the list, who weren't eligible to run after.
It was the elections themselves.
Yeah, it was the
eligibility.
So that was my pick.
A big part of this election that was different was that there was another runner for Grand Chief, which was Warren Lahash. In previous years, there hasn't been a serious candidate running against Mike DeLille for Grand Chief, so that was interesting.
Yeah, and when he threw his hat in, they were saying about how it was almost foreseen. I think he had been talking about it, or people were speculating that he was going to run. So when he threw his name in there, it was everyone's like, well, now we have an election.
There was a lot of youth involvement this time around. So I mean, that was interesting, and I think that happened a lot in a lot of different areas, not just in terms of our government, but also in terms of other organizations, and quite a few different organizations where there was a turnover of the previous administration and the young people coming up to take place, and things like that. So that was to me, it was an ongoing thing throughout the year.
Yeah, and if you see we're going to get to election results, but you did see more younger people getting elected this year. So
there was an interesting seed that was planted this year, which was there was more, I guess, a louder cry for a public debate between runners for Grand Chief, which was interesting because that never happens.
Yeah, it never happens. And actually, Mohawk TV had scheduled a public debate, and they were both willing to come on, Warren and Mike DeLille, but it was our scheduling actually that couldn't accommodate them. They were yes, we can do it, but at the end of the day, it was Mohawk TV that couldn't fit them because we had so much coverage this year of the elections.
Well, at the time I was working for K103, and we too had scheduled them for debate, but it was actually one of the candidates who was turned over in the end and said, I don't think it would be appropriate at this time in the campaign, I guess.
Really? Yeah.
That was disappointing.
It's juicy. No. Which one was it?
I'll hold my tongue. Right. It's over now.
No. Okay.
Okay, so your pick for the month of March.
Well, March was definitely just the call for nominations, but also I put down Keith Mayo's justice hearing with the Court of Kahnawake, because that would just lay lay down the track for the next 5 months, all through elections. Culminating in finally a hearing, that had mediation hearings that happened after the elections. But the reason why it was just very timely, because you had him at the Court of Kahnawake. The 3 judges dismissed the case. They say there are no grounds for his appeal from the previous one. And then into April, if we look into we'll just carry on here, but into April. Finally, Lindsay LeBourne gets elected for the electoral officer, and then he announces the election dates. And then in June, because I'm just going to, skip really quickly, in May and June, there was some contesting of the elections in terms of... Okay, so my daughter's had enough.
Speaking of which, that's when she came in too, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Just
it was
before
June.
the elections.
It was June. Yeah. So
she's letting her presence be known.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we're gonna go to a quick commercial break.
Okay, sure.
And we'll be back with more here on Zawana Oriwage in just a few moments.